Hello, hello. This is Ark the Pie King back from a rather unexpected and prolonged hiatus. And I'm going to be starting a new series today. Before we even get into that, though, I do want to mention I am going to be finishing Kirby. There were some technical difficulties with Kirby that unfortunately prevented it from really working. And what I mean by that is, so the Kirby run was supposed to be blind, and this is kind of a confession as well. The Kirby run was supposed to be blind, and what happened with that was I recorded one of those sessions, and the recording got corrupted, which meant doing that section over was, it wasn't going to be blind. On top of that, the game automatically saves, so I've been debating on what to do back and forth on it, replay those stages or what have you. It's been almost 2 months at this point. I don't remember it, but yeah. I'll figure something out. Leave a comment if you have opinions on that series, but I'm also going to be starting Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions, and this is going to be kind of a special playthrough. I've got some special rules and changes that I've made, and I'll go over with those as we come across. I do a little bit of hacking from time to time, and I did modify this game just a little bit to make it more interesting. Yeah. So, I've actually never sat and watched this intro before. I've always been super impatient and plowed right through it. Hyrule his is a heroism of great renown, a story familiar to all who dwell within our land. So basically, Delita is this great hero who everybody knows of. But there is another young man, the youngest of a famous house of royals, the Beowulf house, and there is absolutely no record of this young boy ever existing, or at the very least of him being of any importance. And we are going to be playing the main character of this game, the main character of this story that was covered up by the church. And I guess technically we are playing as Alazlam, I believe it was, who is reading through these stories and tomes and trying to learn who this young man is. And I'm just going to keep his name as Ramza. I'm not going to rename him as Ark. And I believe his official birthday is actually January 11th, which would make him a Capricorn. And Zodiac symbols are huge in this game. They play an enormous role. So basically, there's a huge system of Zodiac Compatibility within the game, and I'm not going to get into it too much, but suffice to say, certain Zodiac symbols do more and take more damage from others, and then they also do more and take less, and it's always a two-way street. If you hit somebody harder, then they in turn can hit you harder. So yeah, a lot of the game's theoretical strategy goes into making sure that you hit them the hardest while making sure that the least compatible Zodiacs hit you. And that is a lot to remember, and I'm not very good at it, so I'm not gonna. This is the War of the Lions remake of Final Fantasy Tactics. It came out in 2007, as you saw on the copyright screen, and it is just gorgeous. It has some beautiful cutscenes that weren't in the original, and the artwork is just stunning. And here we have a young cloaked knight standing at the water, and that would be Delita, the hero, quote-unquote, of the story, traveling with his men on a pack of chocobos, riding chocobos. And that is actually something you can do in-game, but it is not something I will be doing in-game. So let's see, a few things that make the War of the Lions different. There are a couple of extra side stories you can do, as well as some additional battles. There are a handful of additional characters that are added, 2 off the top of my head. Luso, the main character of Final Fantasy Tactics A2, and he actually was in this game before that game ever came out. It was sort of an advertisement for that game. And Balthier, who is arguably the coolest character in Final Fantasy XII. I actually like Fran better, but Balthier is a close second. One of 2 characters I actually like. Oh no, wait, I like Bosch. Bosch is pretty good. See, there are also 2 new generic classes. There's a very robust class system in this game, which I will only partially be delving into, and again, I'll be getting into that later. But 2 new classes that were added. The Onion Knight, which is awful. It gets stronger the more of the other classes you've mastered, but the gain to I guess effort ratio is awful. It's a completely unusable class, basically. Using it strips you of all of your abilities. You just become a walking attack button, and that's it, and it's terrible. And the Dark Knight class, which is infinitely cooler and infinitely harder to obtain. To give you an idea, the last time I got it, it took me 19 hours of straight effort just to unlock that class for a single character. It is not worth the time, so I'm not going to be dealing with that either. But here we are. We have Agrius Oaks, a Holy Knight, Simon, who is a librarian, the lovely cloaked man there, who hasn't been given a name yet, so he is priest. Forget that I ever said Simon. And Princess Ovelia. And 3 more chumps walk in. Let's see. Oh, another thing that makes this game, this version of the game a little bit different is the translation has been given a total facelift. I thought the original had a lot of charm, but I also admit that it was very inaccurate in a lot of places, and there was a pretty hefty amount of English in it. A lot of typos, a lot of spelling errors, things of that nature. Govern your tongue. I love that. And Ovelia just wants them to stop bickering. I like Ovelia. She's a good character. This game did actually a lot to really make sure that the game had, or the creators of this game did a lot to make sure this game had a lot of very strong, like, female characters with good varied backgrounds and good, motivations, so to speak. There is not a lot of tropes, you know, for female characters in gaming that this follows. Agrius Oaks is just amazing. She's one of my favorite characters in any video game ever, actually. We have Gafgarian, the Sellsword. I believe his class is the Fell Knight class, which is sort of an upgraded... Well, not upgraded, it has stronger abilities than the Dark Knight generic class, but it doesn't have as many of them, so it does one thing really well at the expense of being able to do other things as well. And yeah, this is a turn-based strategy RPG. It's probably the one that really popularized the genre. It's the first one to do it on the scale that it did, and it's really good. And now they're arguing about whether they should kill the men or not. I love the dialogue in this. I find Dead Ren route easily, or more easily, one of the two. And immediately we are treated to awesome. That's what Gafgarian does. He strikes people at range and steals their hit points, and it's really good. As we can see, we've got 5 commands here: move, act, wait, status, and AI. All pretty self-explanatory. I don't actually know what skills he has. The game is semi-random. It usually gives a character an allotment of job points, which I'll get into later, and then the game will randomly spend those until they're done, and then that's the character you get. From there you can customize them, and wow, I got a really good turnout there. So we'll just go ahead and go up here, and I'm going to chuck a rock at an archer. That is not going to kill him. So here's a perfect example of Zodiac Compatibility. See how he takes 12 and he takes 10? That is because he is more compatible with this guy than this one. And let's see what the... Okay, and that's another 12. So we will chuck a rock at this guy. Didn't do a lot, but, you know, he's just a squire. Pardon me one moment. Right, and Agrius using her Judgment Blade. I love her, she's so cool. And we've got a couple of generic knights and such in the back. 2 generic knights and a squire as well. And I'm about to get bopped in the head. No big deal. The very first battle is almost impossible to lose. I've actually seen people try to come up with like reliable strategies to lose this battle. And the reason it's so hard to lose is because one, you have two of the most overpowered characters in the entire game on your team for the intro battle. Secondly, they all are controlled by the AI, and the AI typically makes strong decisions. And it's just a completely one-sided slaughter, to be completely blunt about it. And that ability right there, Gafgarian could probably take most of these guys on his own. Agrius too, but Gafgarian's a little bit better equipped for it because he steals their hit points. It gives him longevity as well as killing power. Yeah, and she broke his helmet. That was kind of awesome, actually. Let's see. 63, 59, 104. We'll come down here and whack this guy. So this is actually a project that I've been wanting to start for quite a while, but I haven't up to this point. And the biggest reason was because of a ton of technical difficulties. So while we're waiting for this to finish playing out, it's not a lot interesting to talk about for this battle. I'm going to go ahead and talk about why I've been on hiatus. So, first off, the biggest reason is I upgraded to Windows 10, and my computer has been running like garbage since then. I was originally running Windows 7 and I loved it. I decided to upgrade because it was free and I was really excited about it, and I just regret it. So I've been struggling to get my computer to run halfway decently, and after hours and hours of research and fixes and this and that, I finally have something resembling a PC again. On top of that, I also just moved. Oh, nice. Good use of a high potion there. I just moved, and that's been eating up a lot of my time trying to get ready to move into my new apartment. I really do love my new place. It was just a struggle and a hassle to get everything together. And anyone who's ever moved knows exactly what that can be like. And then thirdly, on top of that, I work a fairly mentally exhausting job, and we've been on mandatory overtime for the past 2 weeks. I've been working 48-hour weeks, and that's really been taking a toll on me. I'm actually doing a 3rd week of overtime next week, but I'll find some way to survive. And it's just because it's been a long time since I've gotten a turn. Like, a really long time. Yeah, it's definitely been a while since I've gotten a turn, right? Like, I'm not crazy. Ah, well. It's not like I'm gonna do anything useful with it anyway. Okay, yeah, he definitely got 2 turns. I sat there and watched it happen, so I don't know what's going on with that. Alright, and the first battle was won. All thanks to me. I never even noticed that we have 6 people on our side to their, like, 5, and none of them are well equipped. Oh, and we have another beautiful cutscene, which I'm gonna shut up for.
The princess!
This way. Be quick. And try making a little less noise.
I'll not take orders from you!
You've quite a mouth on you, princess.
still going.
Forgive me. 'Tis your birth and faith that wrong you, not I.
Hold there!
So,
Is it truly him?
a little bit of a history lesson for you, and I've read this on the internet, so please don't destroy me if I'm super wrong about this, but Ramza and Gafgarian, the reason their armor is black is because they're actually based off of historical Black Knights. Basically, Black Knights were knights with no lord, and as such, they didn't have a squire to tend to their armor, so they would paint their armor in a special black paint that would help prevent it from rusting and decaying. Goes along with the fact that they're both sellswords, they're both mercenaries. It was just something I recently learned, and I thought it was really nice little detail. I've been playing this game for, gosh, pushing 18 years, and I just learned that today. Now, that first battle is the most current event in the game. The entirety of Chapter 1 is a flashback. Now, the game takes place in what is called the Lion's War. The 50 Years' War is a war that just finished. And as you can see, a lot of the knights returning from the war were stripped of their knighthood, and, they didn't have jobs. Basically, they were soldiers of war who came back and had nothing, so they turned to the one thing that they were good at, and that was violence. They became thieves, bandits, brigands. And it's horribly unfortunate, but you have to feel a little sorry for them just because of the circumstances. But we see a room full of, nice young hopefuls ready to do their duty and, keep the land at peace, keep said brigands and thieves from spreading the seeds of discord. The Corpse Brigade, that's a name that we're going to be seeing a lot. And, oh look, it's Delita again. Duke Larg is one of the two major players in this game, the other being Duke Elmdor. Or not Duke Elmdor, I said that because it was on the screen. Duke Larg and Duke Gultana. And that's why they're bringing in cadets instead of actual soldiers to take care of things. Luckily, one of those is Ramza Beowulf, who is actually just a master of everything. So yeah, basically, they sent the best troops out to the front end, and they're bringing in the cadets from the rear to help keep the castle safe. I mean, it seems like a bold tactic, but not necessarily a smart one, because if they happen to break through the ranks, then it's just a bunch of squires and cadets. And this is where those changes I mentioned are going to come up. See? I'm going to be doing a special run of this game, one I came up with, and one that'll hopefully make for some really dynamic and interesting play. So the first thing I need to show off is, of course, we have Ramza, but Beowulf, Balthier, Rafa, and Race are all special characters you get later in the game. Now, I know the first thing you'd think is, oh, this is going to be super overpowered, it's not going to have any challenge. And for a little while, you would absolutely be right. The first couple of battles, I'm probably going to breeze through, but I'm setting some special rules for myself. One, I'm going to have to fail a stage 3 times before I'm allowed to do any grinding at all. After I've failed the same stage 3 times. I have proven, to a certain extent, I am incapable with my current team to do this. I will allow myself a little bit of grinding. Secondly, part of what makes this game so great is its extremely robust job system. And part of that is, to give you an example of a character I'm just making up in my head, is... well, let me back up a second, I'm getting ahead of myself. You can take abilities from other jobs and apply them to your character. So you could have somebody with the movement +3, which lets you move an extra 3 panels from the Bard class, the reactionary ability Auto Potion from the Chemist, which pops your weakest potion whenever you get hit with an attack, the support ability of half MP, which makes everything cost half, obviously, the draw out, or I think it's called Iato or something to that effect, skill from the Samurai class, which runs off of magic power, and then put yourself in the Wizard class, which is obviously going to be, you know, an arcane truck. And you'd have something crazy overpowered. For this, each of these characters is going to have access to one and only one sub-job. They don't get to mix and match and make... I'm not going to mix and match and make them the best that they can absolutely be. And I'll go over what each of their sub-jobs is going to be once I get finished with this battle. For now, while we're going through this, I'm going to talk about my choice and why I picked each of these people. Now, this is not the best group of people you could have at all. For instance, Agrius and Gafgarian are both easily stronger than any people I have in here. But I didn't want to use any of the sword skill users because they're overpowered. There's no skill to using them. You run in and then you murder everyone. So I tried to pick 5 people who were going to be nice and varied in their abilities and also contribute to a specific role as best they could anyway. And well, I'll go through them as their turns come up. And it looks like Reese the Dragonkin comes in first. So Reese is interesting. We'll go ahead and actually take a look at her abilities first off. And this, I see the Chemist has 9,999. That is, again, for a reason that I'm going to be explaining later. Don't worry about it for now. But she is not going to take any abilities from the Chemist job. This is literally... Actually, I don't know why I gave her the Chemist set anyway. So, Reese is a Dragonkin. She has the ability of dragons on her side. She has some buffing abilities that I think work on everyone. They used to only work on dragons, but now they work on a bunch of people. She has a couple of breath abilities. And as you can see, she has no equipment. That's because she can't equip any. But she has the dual wield ability, like, just innately. And she has amazing stat growth. So I want to see what I can do with that from the beginning of the game. Balthier is going to be very utilitarian in nature. We'll go ahead and check his abilities real quick. Yeah, he's a Sky Pirate. He has Leg Shot, Arm Shot, and Seal Evil. Leg Shot and Arm Shot will either prevent someone from moving or acting, respectively. Seal Evil petrifies undead, which can be very useful. Barrage is 4 attacks at half damage apiece, very useful. And then he has a series of stealing abilities. And these are, yeah, so as you can see, he's going to be acting as the party rogue, as well as a bit of a utilitarian, like, disabler. Delita is going to run forward and stand there menacingly. That's what he's good at. And then he's going to get punched in the face for it. That's okay. Let's see what these squires do. Yeah, like I said, for the first couple of fights, I'm probably going to mop the floor with them because I do have more firepower than I should later, or than I should at this point, but I'm not going to be granting myself any grinding, and I'm not going to have access to a lot of the interesting early game job compositions. So we'll see how that ends up playing out at the end of the day. Highborn Muppets, still Muppets. And Ramza, our star of the show, he looks like a regular Squire, but in fact he has a special version of the Squire that has more abilities. As well, it gains more abilities in chapters 2 and 3, and then again in chapter 2, and then again in chapter 4. His equipment pool also goes up as the game goes on. So right now he can only equip like clothes and swords and things like that, but eventually he can equip armor and then wield like full knight swords, which are a separate class of sword. And what did the game start me with him, actually? Chant. That's a terrible skill, so awesome. Let's see, what can I do with him? I can move up here and punch this guy. Excellent plan. That is not an attack. There we go. I always like that guy's portrait. It's just very slightly different from the standard portrait. Beowulf, I like him. He is very interesting. So he has to have a sword to cast his spells, and this is fundamentally different than the characters I was previously complaining about. But he can inflict status ailments with it. Very similar to the Oracle class, but his is only single target, but they go off instantly and they have a slightly higher accuracy. So he's actually going to be very similar to an existing class. And let's see if we can land this blind. Yes! Awesome. So she's going to be attacking at a lowered accuracy now, and he gained a level. And Rafa. Rafa. So, again, this is for reasons that I'll have to explain later. But Rafa is a Sky Seer, and I have to be honest, I hate using Rafa, and I love using Rafa. So a little bit about me real quick before we get into this. I have a certain affection for really underpowered things, like laughably underpowered. In Street Fighter, I tend to play Dan Hibiki, or in Street Fighter 3, I play Q. If you know anything about the tier lists, though both of those should horrify you. In Dungeons & Dragons 3.5, I like to play the Soul Knife. It is, statistically, it is weaker than an NPC-only weaker version of the fighter class, who is considered one of the worst classes in the game. I love both of those, and Rafa is very similar to that. She is sort of like a mage, except she doesn't use MP when she casts, and it does this. Now, before I finish, in the original version, her spells, well, actually I'll show it first and then explain. Miss. Missed again. Missed a third time. Missed a fourth time. Missed a fifth time. Excellent, Rafa! Excellent. Her spells are what they normally do is they target random squares in the field of effect between 1 and 6 times. In War of the Lions, it got upgraded to 1 and 10. It's still really bad, as you can see, because none of them ever landed on the one singular guy that I was trying to hit. Oh, whoops. Sorry. There we go. Still getting used to the controls here because they're just a little bit different from PlayStation version. She can't get to anybody, so I'll go ahead and move her here. And she'll just have to wait. Yeah, gonna have to murder this guy. Assuming I can. 18. Good job, Delita. So yeah, maybe this isn't as overpowered as I thought it would be, because Rafa is every bit as useless as I always expected her to be. And I don't have a healer in this group, and they do, and yeah, okay. I may have actually oversold these guys. They're not going to be as brokenly overpowered as I had expected. Or at least not at first. We'll have to see how it plays out, but my expectation for the difficulty curve is the first couple of battles are going to be laughably easy. Then the game is going to take a sharp spike upward, and the end of Chapter 1 and the entirety of Chapter 2 are going to be hair-pullingly hard. And then things should even out around Chapter 3, and we'll see how it goes from there. What's the turn order looking like? That is not the turn order. Here we go, turn list. Oh, my entire team's about to go, so that's convenient. In that case, I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to take out their healer. Well, I'm going to start to, anyway. He can't get over there, but Balthier should be able to, so we'll leave it to him. Oh, Rafa. Let's see if you can actually land something. Alright. We just have to hit her one time, and it'll be one shot. This is a big gamble. Let's see what happens. One miss. Two misses. Oh, we landed there. So that was, yeah, that was lucky. All of the other ones missed, but that was lucky, right? There we go. Can she hit from there? I think she can. Yes. Punch 1 and punch 2. Now the attacks aren't actually that good themselves, but as you can see, she does it twice. I definitely want to take out the chemist. That's my priority. And Balthier, you are not doing a whole lot of damage right now, are you, buddy? That's okay. Good job, Delita. You are a credit to the team. I can't control you, and I wish I could. And he's gonna throw a rock. Yeah, the enemy squires have better ranged combat than I do right now. Oh, this actually, however, is a really good chance for her to shine. So I'm going to cast it right there, and hopefully it has a 50% chance of hitting one of them at any given point in time. And this is a great chance for Rafa to shine, actually. So she can target people from 2 squares away with her breath attacks, and that does a lot of damage. Wow. Okay, so I know how to use her now. Nice shot. Oh, nice shot again. Okay, so it does seem like the targeting algorithm got updated a little bit. It seems like it targets the center square the most. Okay, I will have to make sure I put people in the center square. That's... that poor corpse. It's just a charred, electrified mess. Why persist in such folly? Because there's no work for them. They had everything taken from them. Ramza, you silly goose. But they were attacking people and robbing and stealing, and those things just aren't okay. Rafa, I'm not actually sure if she can normally equip daggers or not. That was just the default chemist starting equipment, and I left her with that because I wasn't sure. As you saw, she never actually swung with it, so it didn't make a big difference. That's just tutorial nonsense. Alright, and first thing I want to do is save, and because I fear recording's not working, I'm going to save in a different slot. There we go. And party roster. So we're going to talk about the party for a second. Now, as I mentioned, each of them are going to have their own sub-job that they have access to, and that's all they'll have access to, aside from their main job. Ramza is getting the Dark Knight class. Normally, it would take 19 hours to get access to. I am going to be changing it to get it earlier, because 19 hours is insane, and it is not nearly that good. There are already generic jobs that are stronger than that. But I am going to be imposing a special limitation on Ramza specifically. He doesn't get access to those until level 2, and well, you already saw why. I imagine, you know, he would have picked up some of the dark powers from running around with Gafgary, and it just seems like very appropriate to his growth. He's just a sellsword. He's a Dark Knight. He has painted his armor black. Beowulf is going to be a White Mage. He's going to have a Templar main job and White Mage sub job. I wanted to have a nice, overall good support character, and the disabling from the Templar job and the White Mage support seems like a really good fit. And if he has to, he can mix it up in melee with his weapon attacks. He's not bad at all. Balthier is going to be a chemist. Easy access to items, revival, healing, things of that nature. And chemists and sky pirates can both use guns, and I wanted to keep that theme going. They can also both use daggers. They're very similar. Rafa. Let's see, I don't think it's actually here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to fiddle with it to get it available. But she's going to have access to the samurai job. I thought about doing Dancer on the suggestion of one of my friends, shout out to Fabu, but I decided that wasn't really in the spirit of this challenge, because Dancers affect the entire board for somewhat minimal effects, but they add up over time, and again, they're the whole board. It's great. But shoving her in a corner and making her dance and not using her really terrible ability, it just seemed kind of against the idea of making her useful. Like, anyone can be a dancer, or any female character can be a dancer and make that work. I wanted to make the Sky Seer work, so instead she's going to get access to the Samurai class, which has a good array of, like, AoE centered around her, attacks, debuffs, and healing and support. So the idea is to keep her in the back lines, sniping people with a mantra, and then use the samurai abilities to support and damage as enemies get close as needed. And Reese, dear sweet Reese, she's gonna be a monk. She already punches people. The innate dual wield in Dragon Queen is really gonna complement the monk abilities, and it just seems like a natural fit. They're both very primal concepts. You know, Dragon Lady and a monk. She's a dragon monk, and it's gonna be sweet. Alright. So, oh right, I needed to check Rafa's equipment. See what happens if I remove the dagger. Can I equip it back? No, she cannot normally equip daggers, so good to know that for the future. Sorry about that. I wonder if these guys actually sell anything she can use. Let's take her to the fitting room. And yes, she can use a staff, which is better than a dagger, by quite a bit actually, so that's good. So no harm, no foul. I'm not sure how long this has been going on. Let's see, check my recording real quick. 37 minutes. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and end this here. If anybody has any questions about the game, feel free to comment, or suggestions on how I should or shouldn't be playing it. I'm open to those too. I can't promise that I'll listen to them or do them. Thank you for tuning in, and have a great day.